Welcome to today's class on Internet History 101. Today's topic, the YouTuber apology. I hope you did your reading. The genre of the YouTuber apology video is a very fascinating one to me because, as every YouTuber who ever had to make an apology video will tell you, this is the hardest video I ever had to film. Well, that is because, for one, apologizing always implies that there is something that you have done wrong, and admitting that in front of your followers that are potentially like in the millions is probably not easy, especially if the entire internet hates you right now. But also, making an apology video is very hard on a strategic level. There are so many decisions to make, and every single one could turn out to be the wrong one and could be the reason why you're in the end off worse than before. So today I want to look at some milestones in the history of the YouTuber apology videos. I also want to look at some audience reactions to them and maybe draw a few conclusions of what has changed over time. So first of all, when I'm talking about a YouTuber apology video, I mean, as the name implies, that means it has to be an apology made by a YouTuber, made in video form, uploaded to YouTube. And when I'm talking a YouTuber, I'm talking a content creator that primarily publishes their content on YouTube. That excludes any apology videos made by people that are not primarily YouTubers. So for example, sometimes an Instagrammer or a TikToker will choose YouTube as a platform to host their apology video, or sometimes a YouTuber will choose another platform to host their apology. So for example, Snapchat, apparently that happens, or Instagram, or the infamous Twitter Notes app apology. I also want to say that I possibly cannot look at every single significant apology video, so apologies for that. It's also, in general, difficult to reconstruct the audience's reactions at the time, because for one, many of these apology videos have been deleted by the original content creators and are only available through second-hand uploads. And even if they are still online by their original creator, usually the comments are turned off, and also usually the dislikes and likes are hidden. I mean, since last year you can't see the dislikes anyway, but still, if you even cannot see the likes, it's very difficult to tell sometimes what people were thinking. So in order to get a little bit of an insight, I conducted advanced Twitter searches where you can put specific keywords and specific dates for the tweets that are displayed. So I looked for tweets written about these content creators surrounding the days where the apologies were uploaded. Of course, that also provides only a very slim and not representative look into the audience's reaction, but I feel like with the research that I've done, also looking through commentary videos, I in general have gained an insight of what people are looking for when they're looking at apology videos and what kind of criteria they are looking for when it comes to a good or bad apology video. An apology always implies an admittance of wrongdoing, especially when it comes to things that are potentially criminal. An apology always draws attention to the wrongdoings. I mean, that's probably the reason why many people decide to never apologize, because, if you just ignore it, maybe less people will know of the things that you did that warrant an apology. It's also the reason why some people decide to issue their apologies on different platforms, because it certainly makes a difference to apologize on YouTube, if that's your platform with the most followers, versus apologizing on a Snapchat story that disappears within 24 hours and where you maybe only have like 3% of your following. And on top of that, a common tactic used in apology videos is to not mention the thing you're apologizing for, or only vaguely mentioning it. So people will have to look it up themselves if they really want to know what happened and they don't already know. Now, if you watched my last video, I talked about the cancellation of Lainey, which is a mildly successful pop band, and how not really much has changed for them. They're still making money through music sales and streams and tour and merchandise and all that. And my reasoning for that was that, probably most of their fans are just casual fans who either don't know of the accusations or don't really care. Lainey actually never had to issue an apology, a public apology at least. And sure, that disappointed some dedicated fans, but overall it turned out fine for them. Those fans stopped being fans, and Lainey stopped tweeting and interacting with fans on Twitter and Instagram, and they started monitoring their Instagram comments, and eventually the discourse died down. So when it comes to traditional celebrities like musicians and actors and whatnot, kind of like ignoring that discourse seems to be easier, because being on social media and interacting with fans is, of course, something that in most cases helps their public image, but it's not something they have to do. It's not a given. They can opt out, and that's what Lainey did. But when you're an influencer, if you're a TikToker, a YouTuber, interacting with fans, being on social media, having an open comment section is kind of a given. It's in your job description. It's built into your job. It's built into the platform itself, because of course YouTube videos with lots of interactions and lots of comments will always do better than YouTube videos without. Speaking of which, that's inappropriate. On top of that, YouTube has a very active commentary and gossip community that will call out people for not addressing accusations. So if you're a YouTuber of a reasonable size, at some point you cannot dodge these accusations gracefully anymore. And at some point you're probably forced to address things and apologize for things publicly. So any public apology then is basically just an attempt at damage control. It's an attempt to rehabilitate your image, as cynical as that might sound. Actually, I think I'm a pretty cynical person, so that might just be me. So before we're going to look at specific examples of YouTuber apologies, I want to draw your attention to a few points and criteria that people will look at and try to analyze when it comes to apology videos in order to deem them as good or bad or whatever. All these factors influence each other and intersect with each other. It's not like there's one single factor that makes an apology video suddenly a good one and another one that will suddenly make it fail. It's always the entire package. Some of the things that people might be looking at are things like, where's the video filmed? Is it filmed in a usual spot where the creator usually films, in a studio maybe, or in a more casual background? Is it a neutral background or one that reveals personality? Are they using their usual equipment like high quality cameras, high quality microphones, or are they using equipment of lower quality? Also, what kind of clothes are they wearing? Are they wearing casual clothes, or are they styled? Same with hair. Is it casual? Is it messy? Or is it styled? Are they wearing makeup? And if so, is the makeup over the top, or is it more natural or neutral? Or are they not wearing makeup maybe? Also, whether or not the video is edited, if it's filmed in one shot, can you see the creator reaching for the camera to turn it on and off? Is the crying and sighing cut out of the video? If it's left in, it's usually seen as an attempt to emotionally manipulate, but if it's heavily edited, it's usually seen as a sign that the content creator is not being sincere, or that they have to stop after every single sentence to look at their script. But also, what is the chosen title of the video? Is it something like "My Apology for," or "Taking Accountability," and that's a very common one? Or is it something like just the day of the upload? What's in the thumbnail? What's in the description? Is there even anything in the description? And if so, are there links to their social media profiles? Is the comment section turned off? But also, regarding the performance of the content creator, are they crying in their video? Are they sighing? Can you see emotion, or are they trying to be more neutral? Are they speaking in a more monotone voice? Are they speaking freely or reading off a script? And also, what kind of phrases and words are they using? What kind of language are they using? Are they saying things like, "I'm not making excuses," but then continue to give excuses? And what kind of excuses are they giving? Are they giving context, or are they trying to excuse their actions? Are they using phrases like, I'm sorry if I offended anyone? Now, the question for all of these categories is always, is this something out of the ordinary for the content creator? Is this a stylistic break for the content creator? If so, why did they do this? Or if not, why didn't they do this? What kind of effect could this possibly have? This always depends on the creator. It depends on the personality, on their usual setting and tone. It depends also on the severity of the accusations, because sometimes in light of those, some things might seem more inappropriate than others. So it's highly individual. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. With these things in mind, let's go to our first apology video, which comes from 2014. Of course, there are apology videos before that, but there seems to be, especially within the last few years, a lot more apology videos that have been produced, and I think that's probably due to the rise of cancel culture. So yeah, this is Shane Dawson's apology from 2014, where he apologizes for blackface and offensive videos. It is filmed in the bathroom while he's sat on a toilet, which is an interesting setting, of course. It's very candid, it's very rambly, it's emotional. He makes jokes. He does the classic, I'm not making excuses, but then goes on to make a bunch of excuses for himself. And in general, the video is just not very well structured. I could bet money that this video was just planned out by him and by nobody else. It's unedited. He even says like, oh, I'm not editing this out. This is real. And he also reads out a few names of some people that he wanted to personally apologize for the blackface, saying that those were really upset by it. And I wanted to point this out because, as Shane says in the video himself, he does this because he wants to personally apologize. But of course, by virtue of this being a public apology, it's never a personal apology in that sense. It's meant to feel like one. And also the problem is, at least two of the people that he mentions happen to be black. I couldn't actually find the other ones anymore because the social media profiles seem to be non-existent anymore. And one of the people was actually Francesca Ramsey, who talked about and called out Shane for the blackfacing for years and actually received harassment every single time that Shane talked about her. Now, mentioning those people obviously puts them on public display. He's pointing out the outspoken black people who took offense to the blackface, almost to point them out to his audience, to give them a reason as to why he cannot do like silly little Nicki Minaj impressions with blackface anymore. I mean, that's not what he's explicitly saying, but it does feel a little bit like it. Even when Shane Dawson was cancelled in 2020, we could see that a lot of his fans were clearly upset and outraged of the accusations and saying that they were unjustified. So I can only imagine that in 2014 this must have been much more amplified when, you know, general awareness for social issues like blackface, which is not as widespread, especially amongst his fan base, who was also much younger back then. So really, I think that was a very bad call on the side of Shane, and I would assume that people would, you know, call him out for it. But, you know, the response to this apology video has been overwhelmingly positive. Of course, there was criticism for him, but compared to the reactions to the other apology videos later on, we see that this one was met with an overwhelmingly positive reaction. But I just want to say, on a more personal note, I found that reading through these tweets, you know, the positive ones, was kind of alienating. The general rhetoric of these tweets seemed to be putting Shane Dawson's emotions first and foremost, and then second, the emotion of oneself, you know, as a fan. And you know, that sentiment coupled with the typical 2014 small bean keyboard smash Twitter lingo is just very, very weird. So now we're jumping ahead a few years to 2017 to Simply Kenna's, or nowadays known as cozykitsune's, apology. Now this one is actually not a very well-known apology because she's a relatively, compared to the other people at least in this video, small content creator, but I found it was a very interesting one to include here and to point out. This actually consists of 2 apologies. And this is a common pattern we will see throughout this video. A lot of times a content creator will issue an initial apology that falls flat because it's not seen as a real apology, or it's insincere, or it's inappropriate, and then the content creator will have to apologize for another time, not only for the things, you know, the initial wrongdoings, but also apologizing for the very first apology that was deemed as bad. So Simply Kenna's first apology video is from July 2017, I think. I cannot confirm the date because the apology has been deleted. And the second came of August 2017. The first apology video is kind of interesting because it's a slam poetry. She does apologize in the video. She says that she's sorry, but it's supposed to be art and aesthetic. She didn't want to break her usual aesthetic and artsy vibes just to put out an apology. Now, obviously, people criticized her for it, and a little while later she deleted the video and put up another apology video. Now, this apology video has been said to save her career, which is something that obviously you cannot verify, but it's a common sentiment that I've seen amongst people, and saying that, you know, basically this was a pretty well crafted apology. Reasons being that, for one, it was much longer than the first one. She spoke with composure. She acknowledged that the first apology was a bad apology and apologized for it. She lays out all of the different accusations and tells the audience why people were upset by them. And in general, it's very well structured. There's one downfall though. She monetized the video, which is a big no-no when it comes to apology videos. She does, however, justify it within the video by saying, you know, this is my job. I'm a YouTuber. I have bills to pay, so I'm gonna monetize the video. This is, for one, very interesting because, of course, we have the classic thing of the first bad apology and then the second apology being a bit better, but only in this case it's actually way better. I think if this was her initial apology without the first one, she wouldn't have to worry about anything anymore, probably. Interestingly enough, a few years later it actually got revealed that she didn't write her first apology video, which is actually not very unusual because a lot of apology videos are not crafted only by the content creator itself, but also with the help of, you know, some PR people probably. But this is interesting because she is a very small content creator. She doesn't have like a big team surrounding her to help her with things. And it turns out that the person who actually helped her with the apology video was just a random stranger emailing her and doing it for free. Now, the only evidence I have of this happening is in my head and in a pinned comment of Simply Kenna herself, because I tried to look for the original screen grabs of the emails, but they seem to be gone. The videos that I watched at the time seem to be gone. The link to the forum post where the screen grabs were posted originally is broken, I think. So I couldn't find the evidence firsthand, but in the pinned comment under the apology video, Simply Kenna actually writes that, yes, it's true. Somebody emailed her telling her that she should probably apologize another time because the first time was pretty bad. And then in the email correspondence, the stranger, who is probably a fan and has no background as far as I'm aware in like communications or anything, that person lays out bullet points and specific talking points for Simply Kenna to hit in her apology video, which she does, and she acknowledges in the comment that she follows those talking points very closely because she knew that she couldn't be trusted with her own words anymore. Of course, this is just a random story about one random fan, but I think kind of like this story speaks to the larger awareness of audiences watching these apology videos. Because, again, this is just a random person with no background, doing this with no background in communications or PR or whatever, doing this for free. And yet this apology video is way better in terms of like form and content than many of the other apology videos that we see later on that have been crafted by professional PR teams. I don't know. I think that's interesting. Let's talk about PewDiePie's apology from 2017. It's a very short one, to the point. It's like under 2 minutes. There's no crying, no sighs or anything. He obviously knows what he's doing, and he even talks about it in a later video where he talks about the general genre of YouTuber apologies, and he talks about his own apology and criticizes himself for it. So, for example, in the original apology, he uses the heat of the moment excuse, and he criticizes himself for even using that, for even bringing that up. Now, the reactions to his apology video were mixed. Some people called the video weak, probably because of its brevity and lack of emotion. But the comments under the video, which are, they're not hidden. The comments under the video are overwhelmingly supportive and praise him for apologizing and the way for which he apologized. Of course, there's a lot of criticism for him, but as far as I could gather, that criticism seems less to be about the apology video itself and more to do with the context of the apology. For some people, his actions were just unredeemable, and, no matter how good the apology, that couldn't have made that any different. And I think that's a common sentiment when it comes to these apology videos. Again, apology videos are damage control, and sometimes the damage is just too bad to be fully repaired. We cannot talk about apology videos without talking about the most famous one when it comes to view count, at least. It has over 60 million views, and it comes from Logan Paul from 2018. And again, this was not his first apology. His first apology was a Notes app apology on Twitter, and, considering the severity of his behavior, it was not deemed as appropriate, so he had to post another apology to YouTube. This one is very short. Again, it's to the point. It's unedited this time. You can see him reaching for the camera to turn it on and off, which you couldn't see when it comes to PewDiePie. This apology video was also not well received. I think that's also, for one, due to the things that he did, but also that it was his second apology. But also some people accused him for being insincere and also for acting. Now, speaking of acting, we're going to talk about Laura Lee from 2018, a two-parter again. Now, the first video, it's almost impossible to understand her from all the crying she does. There isn't much substance there besides I'm sorry to disappoint you, this isn't me. Yet it goes on for almost 5 minutes, and the video quickly became the laughingstock of the internet and is now still one of the most famous YouTuber apologies. A month later, she made another video apologizing for the original accusations, but also apologizing for the first apology video. Now, this one is much better. She speaks with composure. It's well structured. She actually brings up the accusations. She shows screenshots of the tweets in question. She films in her regular setting. Overall, it's not that bad. However, again, I think this is a case where the damage done by the first apology is just too bad to be repaired just a month later with a 7-minute video. Now we gotta talk about Jenna Marbles' 2020 apology video, because this one seems to be the one with the most positive reaction to it. Or positive. This one is interesting because she wasn't really cancelled. There weren't really many demands for her to make an apology video. Of course, there was always criticism, but really not on a large scale where she couldn't dodge those criticisms anymore. So really, she made that apology video because she felt like it, so it seems more genuine. She brings up the accusations. She even shows footage of the blackface that she did. The response has been overwhelmingly positive, but I think that's most likely due to the fact that this apology video was also coupled with her announcement to indefinitely leave YouTube. So that kind of overshadowed the apology. In a way, that act of removing herself from the platform, deplatforming herself, is seen as the highest form of taking accountability. She essentially cancelled herself. Now again, we cannot talk about apology videos without talking about Jeffree Star, who has 3 apologies under his belt, and yet all of them have been received very, very, very poorly. Now, the first one is from 2017. It's titled Racism, all caps, punctuation mark. The second one is from 2019, titled Never Doing This Again, punctuation mark. And then in 2020, he did it again with a video titled Doing What's Right. No punctuation mark this time. His 3 videos are basically, stylistically speaking, very similar, especially the first 2. They're filmed in a neutral studio background. When it comes to the performance, I don't know if it's his mannerisms, but he seems to be very defensive, almost aggressively saying,
"And I owe you an apology. I am so sorry for my words. I am so sorry for everything that I've said in my past. I can never turn back time and take those moments away. They happened, I have owned up with them, and I have lived with it for a long time."
Again, none of his apology videos have been received positively, which is surprising because after making 2 apology videos, you would think that he would finally get it a little bit better on the 3rd one, but he didn't. The 3rd one is interesting because he changed the setup and decided to film it presumably in a more casual setting, but that casual setting doesn't really translate well on screen as the neutral studio setting did. So in the casual setting, you can see him sitting on a golden couch with his 2 staircase mansion in the background and, Louis Vuitton socks, pink robe on. Yeah. Also, one moment in that video is a very interesting one where he kind of deflects from the topic of the video by shouting out Breonna Taylor and other victims of police brutality, and then clearly, visibly struggles to bring the topic back to the original topic of the video. Now, especially this moment and also just general style of these videos caused all of them to fail in the audience's eyes. Now, I want to finish off my small history. Actually, it's been quite long. I want to finish off this history of apology videos with a recent one from 2021 by David Dobrik, and again, a classic 2-parter. So the first apology video was put out in March 2017, 2021 on David Dobrik's podcast channel with 1.7 million subscribers. Now compare that to his main channel with over 18 million subscribers. It's set in his podcast studio with his usual podcast setup with an external microphone. You can see his awards in the background. I think that this setting would have been more appropriate if he was apologizing for something that happened on the podcast, but that's not the case. It's very short, it's very vague. He doesn't go into detail about the accusations. The language was also deemed as inappropriate, considering the severity of the issues. It seemed to be just empty phrases, lip service. And it also contains the now infamous quote, and I missed the mark with that one. So a few days later, he put out another apology video. So on March 23rd, he uploaded the apology video to his main channel, the one with 18 million subscribers. And in many ways, it's completely different to the first one. It's filmed in a casual setting, on a living room floor. You can see him setting up the camera. It even includes trigger warnings because he actually goes into detail about the accusations this time, so not just vaguely talking about them. He also shows emotion. You can see that he's crying, but he cuts out the crying. And also at the beginning of the video, he says that, these have been hectic days for him. A lot of people around him trying to tell him what to do, what to say, what to whatever, but he doesn't want to do this. He wants to do this on his own. It's just you and me. So he spins this rhetoric of, this is just you and me. This time it's me. The first one, maybe that wasn't really me. Maybe that was my PR team that wrote this video for me, but this time it's really me. It's my emotions, it's my words and everything. The funny thing is, if you ask me, I think that both of his videos, considering his millions of subscribers, the severity of the issues, and also the phrasing of the videos, to me it seems very clear that both these videos have been crafted with the help of a PR team and a lawyer or two. Just, in the case of the first video, they missed the mark. But, the second apology video was also not very well received, but I think that's also due to the fact that the first one fell flat. So if the second one was his first to be released, things would have been better for him probably, but still not very well because context matters. The general public opinion of David Dobrik at that moment in time was just not very good. So there was really not a lot of things that he could have done to change public opinion on him. Also, he uploaded the second apology video only after big sponsors dropped him. So that means that he only felt to apologize after he started to feel the financial ramifications of his cancellation, which of course is not a good look on him. So what can we draw from this? Well, for one, we can see that even after years and years, we still see this trend of 2 apologies because the first one fell flat, which is so interesting to me because clearly these people have, or many of these people have help by professionals, and still it doesn't work many of these times. Also, no matter how perfect an apology video may be, I think there's very few instances where an apology video will be considered a success, because of course there's still things you did, and some people will just say, you're unredeemable, the damage is caused, there's nothing that you can do to change that. I also can see that things have changed over time. So for example, I feel like David Dobrik's first apology video that he put out would have felt completely out of place when he put it out in the early 2010s. And in return, if Shane Dawson put out his 2014 apology video nowadays, I just know that he would be shredded apart on Twitter into bits, completely annihilated, and he would definitely have to make another apology video apologizing for the first apology video. And it's interesting because that apology, aside from Jenna Marbles' apology, was the one with the most positive attention, and I think that's a product of the time period. Nowadays, audiences seem to have way more criteria that they want to see, checked off when it comes to good apology videos, and it's still, even though there is kind of this criteria, it's still very difficult. You cannot make a good apology video, in a sense. And even though audiences are way more critical and analytical nowadays, and with the talks and accusations of every second apology video being insincere nowadays, I feel like general audiences still haven't arrived at this point of discussion of how we might have traded authenticity for performance a long time ago. I'm sure that Simply Kenna's first apology video, the slam poetry one, was way more sincere to her than the second one. But of course, the first one was a bad apology. If a YouTuber crafts the perfect apology, ticks off all the right boxes, uses all the right phrases, does intent matter? Does it matter if it's insincere or if it's sincere? Is it just optics? Is it all just performance? Lindsay Ellis, who actually got cancelled last year and didn't apologize for it, put it this way on the Financial Diet podcast, quote, "No apology was ever demanded in good faith. You cannot demand an apology from someone. You can hope for one, you can ask for one, but if you're demanding something, you're not asking for a sincere reconciliation. You're asking for performance. You're asking for them to bend the knee." There's something so deeply human about apologizing. It involves regret, humiliation, shame. And of course, you want to give a proper personal apology to the person that you've hurt, because that's the decent thing to do. But does that really matter when you broadcast your apology to potentially millions and millions of viewers online? Who is that apology then really for? Is that apology really for the people that you've hurt, for the communities that you've hurt, or is that apology for your followers so they can rest assured that, you've changed, you've apologized, you're safe and unproblematic to support again? Actually, this video is way too long already, and I've said the word apology so many times that it doesn't sound like a real word anymore, so I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna leave you with these thoughts. I'm not gonna think them for you, so have fun. I don't know if there's going to be more videos on this channel. Actually, I should probably say there are going to be more videos on this channel. Tune in to find out if that's a lie. Of course, there are options and functions down there you can press and enable to be notified if you're interested. You know the business. There's more things you can do. You know the business. So until then, I will see you at another time.